Welcome back to Channel 3 with 8 o'clock Weigel News. On air with
Courtney Van Dries,
Ryan Boyd,
Samantha Whitmire. John Walker Lind was a scapegoat, wrongly.
Breaking news!
It looks like across the U.S., a long recovery looks like recession. Born of a record financial collapse, this recession has been more severe than any since the Great Depression, and has left an enormous oversupply of houses and office buildings, and crippling debt. Put simply, the national economy has fallen so far that it could take years to climb back. Most believe that this recession will fully come back to power in 2012. At the current rate of job creation, the nation would need 9 more years to recapture the jobs lost during the recession. Median house prices have dropped 20% since 2005. Commercial vacancies are soaring, and it could take a decade to absorb the excess in many of the largest cities. Live from Compton, here we're on the streets interviewing random people. Excuse me! What do you feel about the recession recovery?
I don't think it's working because nothing's changing in my community.
How do you feel about that?
I think it's pretty darn bogus.
Well, that's great. Back to the news feed. After plummeting in 2009, the stock market has spiraled up, buoying retirement accounts and perhaps the spirits of middle-class Americans. So now, the world can collectively breathe a huge sigh of relief. The global recession is over. Of course, it may not look that way, especially if you're one of the 15 million Americans still out of work, or if your house is still worth substantially less than your mortgage. But many emerging or developing nations are bouncing back rapidly. China, in fact, is again concerned about growing too quickly, and even the more mature economies, such as the United States and Europe, are rebounding a lot more slowly. The U.S. economy predicts the IMF is expected to expand at a 2.7% rate. The IMF anticipates a global growth rate at 4% for 2010. The key downside risks remain continued, as large job losses are still here and further sharp declines in home values are still here as well. New updates in the next 2 weeks to come. Now we move on to the economic globalization and outsourcing. Back to Ryan Voigt.
They're asking the question, will their jobs come back because of rising oil prices? The fact that the oil prices are rising and shipping industries are charging more will affect U.S. employment, therefore giving more jobs. Other companies like XL Outdoors, a Los Angeles-based maker of recreational equipment, had to halt its production of sleeping bags being made in China and moved its manufacturing to Haleyville, Alabama. And all this will stimulate the economy, which is in the dumps right now. Another question that many Americans are asking are whether high energy prices affect all aspects of global trade, including the areas of telecommunications and computers. For example, the software industry in India will continue to thrive because it thrives on cheap internet and not natural resources. So while some manufacturing may feel the pressure of high oil prices, American companies will continue to outsource in other ways. Now to Sam Whitmire with the new breaking news on immigration.
Yeah, look at it.
Haitians who received a special American immigration status after last year's earthquake will be allowed an additional year and a half to live and work in the United States while their country struggles to recover. The Obama administration announced this on Tuesday. The special designation, called Temporary Protected Status, had been available to Haitians who had lived continuously in the United States since January 12, 2010, the date of the earthquake. Under this new extension, Haitians who arrived in the country as late as January 12, 2011, and had lived here continuously since then will be eligible to apply. Now an interview with the Secretary of the Homeland Security. So why did you do this?
Expanding and extending the program out of concern that Haitian immigrants' personal safety would be endangered by returning to Haiti.
But Homeland Security Department officials said they are going to continue to deport Haitians who have been convicted of violent crimes or were repeat offenders and had also been ordered removed by an immigration judge. Deportations of Haitians were suspended after the earthquake but resumed in January. After a 2-month pause after a deportee died of cholera-like symptoms shortly after arriving in Haiti, immigration officials once again resumed the deportations in April. About 48,000 Haitians living in the United States have secured temporary protection status since the earthquake, and an estimated 10,000 more will be eligible under the extension, officials said Tuesday, adding that application guidelines would be issued this week. So, other news in immigration.
Yep.
Obama talks about the DREAM Act.
We should stop punishing innocent young people for the actions of their parents, he said. We should stop denying them the chance to earn an education or serve in the military.
A day after President Obama outlined his plan to overhaul the nation's immigration laws, Democrats in Congress introduced a narrowly tailored bill Wednesday that would give some children of legal immigrants a chance at legal status in the USA. The legislation will grant legal status to undocumented immigrants brought to the U.S. illegally if they attend college or serve in the military and meet other conditions. Senator Dick Durbin says about this, "Our immigration laws prevent thousands of young people from fully contributing to our nation's future. These young people are American in every sense except their technical legal status. These children are tomorrow's doctors, nurses, teachers, policemen, firefighters, soldiers, and senators, and we should give them the opportunity to reach their full potential." In the House, the DREAM Act was introduced by Democratic Reps Howard Berman of California and Luis Gutierrez of Illinois, along with Representative Elena Ross-Lehtinen. And also about immigration. Last week, the United States continued to close the door on foreign-born technology wizards who could create business and jobs within our borders. The country's immigration system is broken. Fixing it has been beyond reach. One faction rightly emphasizes plugging porous borders, especially in a post-9/11 reality where border security is national security. Another rightly emphasizes a path to citizenship for the 11 million or so people in the United States illegally, people who came here for the same reason immigrants have always arrived. Opportunity and hope for them and their children. We need to do both. Yet reform should happen. Legal immigrants form a big underground economy, working for depressed wages for companies that sometimes knowingly employ them. The result is an unfair disadvantage for businesses that scrupulously follow the rules. In addition, splitting up hard-work families through deportation is unfair and sometimes cruel. The nation's graduate schools are packed with foreign students. These students benefit from the top-notch U.S. education only to take their knowledge and energy back home to places such as India, Korea, and China to found firms that will become major technological giants around the globe. Why do we force them to leave through overly restrictive rules on visas? Now back to Courtney Vandries with energy.
Next, from the U.S. Department of Energy. Energy is the vital source powering business, manufacturing, and the transportation of goods and services to serve the American and world economies. So therefore, energy is good. Increasing energy supplies.
Good mood energy.
Oh my god.
Go.
As America's need for energy grows, the Department of Energy is meeting the challenge by establishing clean fuel initiatives to make the most of traditional fossil fuels while investing in cutting-edge research to develop substantial sources such as fusion and employ hydrogen, an energy carrier like electricity, which can also be proved from diverse domestic sources and greatly reduce our dependence on imported oil. By developing the infrastructure to support these fuels, DOE, the Department of Energy, is striving every day to protect our nation's energy needs and our planet's environment. In addition, the Department of Energy is harnessing the power of the Earth itself to meet our energy needs. Advances in wind, hydro, and geothermal energy allow us to take advantage of clean, abundant energy. The department's activities are instrumental in establishing the safety, reliability, and efficiency of energy supplies in the global marketplace. Right now, we are facing an energy crisis in this country. American taxpayers, being held hostage by foreign dictators, are paying $4 for a gallon of gasoline and sending $2 billion overseas for foreign oil every day. America needs a new direction for energy security, and it's time for natural gas to lead the way. We have barely tapped the surface of natural gas potential, and there is more than enough to use for utility purposes and transportation fuel. Converting just one traditional garbage truck to run on natural gas is the environmental equivalent of taking 300 cars off the road. Lowering taxes to encourage the production and purchase of vehicles that run on cheaper fuel produced in America is not a subsidy, it's common sense.
On Kway from King Burger. How do you feel about how the U.S. is using its energy today?
I read down my answer. I said, our country needs a long-term policy that provides energy from our own ample natural resources. A comprehensive energy policy can't be driven by gas prices or polling numbers. It requires a steady approach that will result in stable supply of energy. We have an abundance of oil and natural gases. Now we need to access it. Is that all, ma'am?
Thank you very much. That's
Security! Security! I'm about to call security.
You cannot call security.
Security!
That is all. Back to the news.
Ryan Voigt with Iraq, Afghanistan, and Libya news.
In the Libyan conflict, an estimated 30,000 civilians and military personnel have been injured or killed. And the dictator Muammar Gaddafi has vowed to cleanse Libya house by house in order to stay in power. There are legitimate concerns about the long-term impact of the short-term no-fly zone that might place Americans' lives in danger. And even more ominously, Muammar Gaddafi's forces hold Tripoli, the heavily fortified capital of Libya. Now to the Iraq and Afghanistan war, or the war on terrorism. Now to the Iraq war. The official numbers of the wounded are about 33,000, but the estimated death toll is over 100,000 civilians and military personnel. The official start of the war was when the 9/11 attacks took place, when Al-Qaeda attacked on American soil and took down Twin Towers and part of the Pentagon. That was pretty much it. Admire with the role of the U.S. in the 21st century.
Just when lawmakers thought a thorny tax dispute was behind them, the European Union raised objections on Friday to parts of the $137 billion corporate tax bill that was passed last month. The measure was 3 years in the making and was intended to do away with a tax cut for exporters that was declared illegal by the World Trade Organization. Rather than simply outlawing the tax subsidy system, Congress replaced it with 3 times the number of tax cuts involving nearly every sector of the economy, from tobacco farmers to shipbuilders. The European Union applauded the United States for doing away with the old tax cut and said it would remove the $4 billion in sanctions it had imposed against American products after winning the WTO ruling. But on Friday, the Europeans asked for talks with the United States to question why some of the biggest American corporations should be given a 3-year grace period or transition before the original tax cut was ended. We have consistently raised concerns about grandfathering and other transition issues. Anthony Gooch, the European Union spokesman in Washington, said, "But we are still in train to lift sanctions by January 1st. The administration contends that the Europeans are raising their dissatisfaction with the new trade dispute filed at the WTO by the United States over European subsidies for Airbus. In retaliation, the Europeans filed a similar complaint against American subsidies for Boeing one of the corporations that will benefit from the 3-year transition period in the new corporate tax bill. The EU had expressed willingness before the grandfather some contracts, said Richard Mills, spokesman for the Office of the United States Trade Representative. This is not only standard practice in tax legislation in the United States, but also in a number of EU members. After years of debate and a final marathon of arm twisting to pass the bill and get it signed by the president last month, lawmakers have warned that they will look unkindly at foot dragging by the Europeans. Mr. Gooch, the spokesman, said that that on the contrary, the Europeans were moving with remarkable speed to erase the $4 billion in sanctions, and that further discussions about transition did not undo Europe's approval of the repeal of the tax cut for exporters. This is the real model of how to settle disputes, Mr. Gooch said. Our negotiations were very gentlemanly stuff compared to other disputes.
Live from Iraq, this is Ryan Voigt reporting on a recent terrorist attack at a local market in Iraq that has left 12 people dead.
Breaking news! Obama is dead. Wait, correction. I mean Osama is dead.
This is the end of the Weigold Channel 3 News with
Courtney Rangers.
Ryan Voigt.
Samantha Whitmire. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.